Riga, a city to fall in love with. The 700,000 inhabitants of Riga make up 1/3 of the population of Latvia and makes it the largest city in the Baltic states. It is famous for its old town and city center, in which over 800 buildings are of the Art Nouveau style of architecture. The old town of Riga is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Much of the old town was either destroyed by fire or destroyed by the Germans in World War II and remained in ruins until it was rebuilt in the late 1990s, mainly to make Riga attractive as a tourist destination. You could say that Riga is a city of contrasts. The life in the center is fast and mainly richer people are living there. The life in the suburbs is different. Lots of really poor people are living there. For example, the Russian district. The houses there are neglected and the roads are broken. As against to the center, which is much more developed. You can easily see that the government invested a lot of money to the center. There are lots of people, many businesses, and within the last years the number of tourists has raised. Lots of Latvian natives had to move from the center to the suburbs, because the price level was rising fast. The center and the old town have many monuments, parks and sightseeing. There are plenty of restaurants and bars. The nightlife became to an important part of Riga. Probably that's one main reason why there are coming more and more tourists. Since low-priced airlines are flying to Riga, it turned into a party hotspot. The prices in the center are high for Latvians, but for tourists from Britain, Spain, Italy, France and Germany it is still really cheap. In diverse newspapers you find very often articles about the bad behavior of some tourists. In fact, the party tourism has turned into a big problem. What do the native Latvians think about those tourists? Must there be a change?
I think you take money from these people more, because I don't like very much.
I never saw that kind of people. But I heard about them, and of course it's not good behavior to act like that, but we cannot control. And I think a lot of police is working with them, so...
It is very bad to our place, to our person who drunk, who smoke in a city, in a town, or I think we need a police to do some things about this.
Very often tourists from diverse European countries decide to come to Riga to celebrate a wild stag party. Why not? Probably it's cheaper than in their home country. There are no people they might know, and of course Riga is a beautiful city too. You could easily find flights for less than 60 euro, and in the off-season the hotels are pretty cheap too. What starts as a funny night sometimes ends with rampage or fights. Recently, the mayor of the Latvian capital said that British stag parties would no longer be welcome to the city. He has lost patience with the unruly groups urinating and climbing naked on Riga's reversed Freedom Monument. We had the honor to interview Elisa Troppa, a human resource manager of different bars in Old Town, and Kasper Žruklis, a representative of the Latvian Institute. He noticed this touristic boom very early.
So I have really seen this increase in tourism from my very own experience as I go to work and as I sometimes go out for lunch, I have seen the old town transform from sort of a place where mostly you would see local people to a place where you see very few local people during the daytime, but you see a lot of foreigners, a lot of tourists.
What do you think about tourists in general?
You always have to remember why they are coming. For example, the ones who are coming more for sightseeing, no, they do not do things like that. And even tourists from Great Britain who are coming here just, for example, to celebrate a birthday party, they are behaving more okay. But stag parties who are coming over here, and mainly their main focus is to celebrate one's last party as a single person. Surely they do some random crazy things, but they do not get it. For them, it's not an act about having something against Latvians. For them, it's we are drunk, let's do something crazy. And they do not think the 5 steps ahead and what does it mean.
Also, the representative of the Latvian Institute thinks that there has changed something.
The more tourists there are, the more different services are offered for tourists. Maybe some locals do not like it. They're not happy that their favorite pub has turned into a tourist attraction. Prices have gone up, different other problems. Perhaps some tourists are behaving very loudly and they are not respecting the local quiet Latvian tradition of going out. But at the same time, as I'm saying, Riga is big enough. There are so many other places that are developing thanks to the fact that tourism industry has taken up the older part, and I think it's very, very good for Latvia.
But if there are some tourists in bars or clubs who are behaving really bad, what could you do? Our interview partner, who is working in different bars, just tries to talk to those bullies.
That's the thing also, how me as a bartender, how I do put it, sometimes they do get wild, but it's also, we have to, as I said, understand that that's in their mind set up why they are coming over here and why they are going to other cities. Surely, since Riga is so cheap to them, comparing to Britain, they can afford to drink more, get more drunk. But I'm reminding always them, hey, remember you are a guest over here. And I haven't had any problems yet, only because they were too loud. But in the last years, I haven't noticed them to doing stuff like that.
Well, I have heard, of course, as a Latvian, I have heard a lot of the news about how some of the tourists are behaving here. And sometimes, of course, that's something that nobody should be proud of. But at the same time, I don't think that Riga as a travel destination can afford to discriminate anybody. I think there should be options for all different kinds of people, and of course it's also up to the Latvian tourism industry to talk to these people, to address them through perhaps different campaigns or through some information that they see when they arrive at the airport that explains that these are our symbols, this is how we do it, this is our local culture. And I think that that there is a possibility through different means of communication actually to also improve the behavior of those badass tourists that do not know how to behave perhaps. And speaking about parties, of course, you know, people, again, when they come for holidays, they want to enjoy and they want to have fun. And I think that, you know, we are very, very pleased to welcome them here. And, you know, then they're responsible for their own actions themselves afterwards.
Have you ever had an interesting experience with tourists?
Once a guy got naked and taped himself at a sign outside.
Okay.
That was not his decision, but the decision of the group. But it was like a more inside joke for them rather than an act of vulgarism.
You know, he was asking mostly about the bars to go to, how do you meet Latvian girls, and how do you say you're beautiful in Latvian. But then again, I thought, you know, I mean, it's not my job to judge him. I mean, I was just, you know, trying to be friendly and trying to talk to them, and kind of, you know, maybe I was the first Latvian person that they have ever met, and you know, I was trying to be as friendly as I can.
Did you ever hear about sex tourism in Riga?
It's a fact. Myself, I haven't noticed it. Sometimes the tourists from Italy and from Spain, especially to the Latvian girls, are more open and would like to have more communication as the Latvians would prefer. So sometimes there are some problems, but in general I do not think so.
How does it feel as a Latvian to read in newspapers that Riga is turning into a Bangkok of the Baltics?
Well, there are also, sentences that say that Riga is the capital of Art Nouveau of Europe, or Riga is the little Paris. So there's a lot more to any city.
What do you think about the price level?
I think the prices are okay. Also, they should not be too low because that would cultivate Latvians to drink more. We are speaking right now about the Old Town, right? And outside the Old Town there are bars with the lower prices, and the Latvians, there are not so many Latvians living, especially in the Old Town or near Old Town by, and there are lots of really good bars outside of Old Town. So yeah, and in the Old Town there's a really good solution also for Rock Cafe, that they have like night prices on Saturdays, Sundays. No, Fridays, Saturdays. Yeah, when there are more tourists than Latvians. And yeah, but I don't think so that the prices are too high. If it would be €1 per beer, then every Latvian would get drunk every evening.
Well, actually, we do have some examples. We had some problems. We have had some problems with taxi drivers in Latvia some years ago, and the officials actually tackled that problem, and they made some adjustments into the legislation to make sure that foreigners are not ripped off. And this was especially true about taxi rides to the airport, because if you are not a local, you would be charged more. So there was a big campaign and also a lot of work with the taxi drivers, changes of some regulations to make sure that these prices are fair for everybody and that you wouldn't get ripped off. I think it's totally not fair if you go visit someplace and you just have to pay more just because you are a visitor. I don't support that. I think that actually the prices should be fair, and they should come down also for the tourists where possible, because it's just it's just fair. And why would you charge somebody who comes from some other country more?
Are there any things to improve?
There is a little more that the tourism organizations in Latvia could do to perhaps give some information about these issues. Tell a little more about our values to the visitors before they come.
All in all, you could say that Riga benefits from the touristic boom. If you talk about tourists in general, you definitely have to separate them into two groups. Of course, there are those tourists who just come to go wild, but most of the tourists are really interested in the beauty, the history and the culture of Riga, respectively Latvia. Probably one main reason for the development since the independence in 1991 are the tourists. They spend money here, which is really important for hotel, bar, club and restaurant owners. Without that, Riga wouldn't have so many opportunities for spending a fantastic time. Furthermore, Latvian people are also able to enjoy the ideal lifestyle of Riga.
And Riga, I think, is an open city and welcoming city. So there are things about Latvians that especially tourists are asking why the Latvians are not so friendly. That's just the way how the nationality is. And I have heard that Latvians are like coconuts, hard from the outside, soft in the inside, and you just have to get to know them. But if we put it as a statement, sure, Riga is a welcoming city, and traveling in general is a good thing. So yeah, I would say to every tourist, come and see Riga because it has a lot to offer.